Okay, we're good to go. I want to thank everybody for being here for the Community Development Meeting, Monday, December 12th, 2022. Before we get started with the meeting, I'm going to ask Law Director Deary to say a few things in regards to open meetings and sunshine law.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There have been discussions with several of you regarding procedures and activities during council as well as committee meetings, how some of those activities may implicate sunshine law and public records. And I would just like to take this opportunity as a friendly reminder that obviously and I know all of you know this, but sometimes we're on autopilot and we don't realize this as members of a public body, that any deliberations that you have should be done obviously as part of the open forum and not as we might term it, a sidebar. That's not to say that if you turn off the record to your colleague and ask for a cough drop or something, that's a violation. I'm not insinuating that, but I'm just taking this opportunity to remind you that the whole purpose behind and spirit behind the sunshine law and public records is that the members of the public have the opportunity to hear your thoughts on matters in the public forum. And obviously, if you have any questions about that, you know where to find me. So.
Okay. Thank you, Law Director Deary. We have 3 items on the agenda for community development, and the first one is the approval of the regular community development meeting minutes from November 14th, 2022. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Schneider. Oh, I'm sorry. Moved by Mr. Lippian and seconded by Mr. Oswald.
Question.
Question on the motion. All in favor of the motion, please use the voting sign. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item 2 is the matter of the vacation of Merchants Alley between Washington Avenue and Kerstetter Way. This matter was passed by Planning Commission on December 6th, subject to a lot consolidation. And this was also referred by the Elyria Block Development LLC. Dawn, are you going to weigh in on this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
This effort to vacate Merchants Alley is to accommodate the developer in developing the entire site for the esports arena. So as you're aware, that site includes everything between Kerstetter and Washington Avenue. And in there are about 6 parcels and 7 if you include the alleyway. So they need, as a historic redevelopment going into state-of-the-art technology, they have a lot of requirements for a mechanical yard that will be in compliance with our zoning, but also the historical nature of the building, which allows them to get the historic tax credits they need. And as you can imagine, putting the mechanical yard on top of the roof, which is pretty standard of a building built in the 1870s for technology to accommodate esports and broadcasting would be an engineering feat. So what they have requested is actually, since they own all of the parcels adjacent to the alley, is that the city vacate the alleyway and they would then consolidate those 6 or 7 parcels into one.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions? I see Mr. Oswald.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Don, so whose property will it be then? Will it be the city's property and they have like a right of way, or how does that work?
No, it would be the developer's property, so it would go into that organization's name. They would own all of that land. And again, it would be one parcel. So I know during Planning Commission it came up, what if somebody wants to sell, say, where the Metro PCS is right now? Well, it's all going to be one parcel. So those buildings will no longer be separated. Those parcels behind it will all be one, and it will be parking behind where Uncle Vic's once was.
Mr. Tollett?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, and I am not a member of this committee, but Mr. Oswald, if you remember, you may not remember this, you may not have been on council at this time. We did this for Ridge Tool. We vacated a a section of road for Ridge Tool that they took over to fit their new building. So this is not new, we're not setting precedent with this. Thank you.
Excellent point. Any other questions from anyone on the panel? Okay. Seeing none, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of a vacation of Merchants Alley between Washington Avenue and Kerstetter Way. This is an ordinance authorizing the said vacation. Please note that this matter was passed by Planning Commission on December 6, 2022. Could I get a motion?
So moved.
Second. Moved by Mr. Oswald, seconded by Mr. Snyder.
Call for the question.
Question on the motion. All in favor of the motion, please use the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Keep that, or? Okay, next item on the agenda for community development is the matter of a continued discussion on the overpopulation of deer in certain areas of the city. This is referred to by Ward 4 Councilman Oswald. Mr. Oswald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll try to make this as quick as possible. There was a whole lot of information here, so I'm just going to kind of give you some bullet points. I guess it's a real sensitive subject right now because, some people like the deer, some don't, some feed them, some don't. But I guess what I want to come out of this meeting is just the consensus of where we want to go from here, what we want to do for the residents that are having an issue. In doing my research, I contacted a lot of different people. The best one that gave me the most information was ODNR guy, Jeff Westerfield. So I said, could you send me some information? Oh yeah, no problem. He emailed me 750 pages. I'm not a reader. Okay, so anyhow, I did go through it. I broke it down a little bit for some of our people in our group or chair or committee so they could have an idea. I'm going to go through just a few of those. I'll try to be quick. Some of the places that have been doing these, and there are different ideas of how they've done it, but North Royalton, Independence, Hudson, Menor, Pepper Pike, East Lake. And of course, you'll know that those are kind of more, they're not residential. They're like open land, so they can do a lot of different things. And it's just not calling, it's different things that they've tried to do. So anyhow, in going through this, I'm just going to, like I said, touch on some of the things that they're dealing with when you have to worry about your overpopulation of deer. It's, the biggest problem, people don't realize it, is danger. We got a lot of accidents and stuff from deer roaming around and things like that. And how do you control that? The challenge is that in the municipalities is how do they know how many deer are in there? So they're trying to figure that out. So, we got 12 walking down the street, or you got 13, how many? Well, you don't know how many deer, so you don't really know if you're overpopulated or not. And then how do you manage it? Do you have a chute? Then you've got going on people's private properties. They would have to sign off. There's a lot of issues with doing that. That comes at a cost to the city because you just don't have a sign up and say, hey, I'm a deer hunter, I want to do it. So there's a lot of issues that you're dealing with that. In my personal backyard, this year I didn't have no deer eating my garden. Last year, they were eating my garden. Their paths change. So when you think that you've had it bad for 1 year to the next, maybe the next year it won't be so bad. So that's something that you're always going to have changing. And then they get used to the environments, so you try doing a few things and it works for now. And then all of a sudden they get used to that environment. You put out a couple coyotes, okay? They're supposed to, deter them. All of a sudden, next thing you know, they're making friends with the coyotes, you know, so now the coyotes don't work. So I guess these are all the things that they've been trying, you know, that they've been, like I said, 750 pages, different ideas of what they've been trying to do to accomplish at least thinning them out or making them to a point where they're not such a problem for everybody. That poor guy that's got 12 of them laying in his backyard and he's got to clean up their mess every day, and it's not fun. And the people that are feeding them, they don't get it. You're not supposed to feed them. How do you catch them, you know, to write them a citation if it's even really, I have not found out if it's an exact law about, you know, feeding the animals. You know, so those are a lot of the issues. So anyhow, I guess this guy, Jeff, said that he would come to the meeting and he would just give, you know, the people a chance to ask questions. And if we did something like that, at least the people could come with their questions, and if it could be well organized, they could have their question, they could come up and ask what the question, and then he could answer it, because he's very knowledgeable, and then at least this would help, you know, the people, you know, to maybe give them some ideas of what they can do. Because everybody thinks, well, we just shoot them. Well, what happens if they run into somebody else's yard and they're I don't want you in my yard, you know? So there's a lot of those type of issues. There's a guy over on Regency Court I just talked to today because I was driving down Ford Road and I had stopped for about 5 of them that walked through there. He said that they religiously put stuff down on their backyard. He says they plant certain trees. I seen some netting, okay? He's been there for probably the inception of that street. He knew, he lived there. He knew what was going to happen. He knows that he's got to live with their environment also. So they're adapting to each other right now. So I guess to get it short is, I guess one thought was coming out of my mind is like, if you had like a chat group, and Jack was just saying that maybe there's already a chat group that they have that's statewide, if we did something citywide, and that all these people that were having the issues could get on this chat site and say, okay, I'm having this issue, what have you used? Well, did you try this, or this? And then they could be back and forth, and it could be a good forum so that maybe they could, you know, try to thin some of these out or move them, because they're always going to be moving in different areas. And for right now, it's a problem for you, but sorry, next year it's your problem. So anyhow, that may be a possibility. And I guess right now I could open it up to anybody that would have some suggestions or comments as far as where we would go if we would like to have Jeff come and speak and answer questions. So, Mr. Chair, if you'd like to handle it from here, if anybody would have questions.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Oswald. I appreciate the efforts. I know we all do, the efforts you put out. We all do know that this is a very emotional topic, as we addressed it 9 or 10 years ago, I believe. It is a difficult topic, and like I said, it's emotional. So, yeah, I think your efforts to begin with is great, and I think possibly getting this gentleman out here at some point, maybe at the next committee meeting or whatever schedules can work out. I think that would be great, but I sure want to hear if there's anybody else on the panel that has any thoughts or discussion in regards to this. Mr. Lippian.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Well, as we weigh the solution, it appears that on one side we have the effectiveness, as how effective whatever solution we select will be, versus the humaneness, which is how humane it will be. And in the scalable competition between how humane and effective these things are, it would be my preference to pursue permissible nonviolent solutions to the deer problem first, and to use violence as a last resort.
Okay, very good. Are there any other comments, questions? Mr. Tollett?
I would support the representative from ODNR coming in and answering questions of both council and the public.
Excellent, excellent, I agree. Mrs. Mitchell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I think having a meeting with the representative would be great. If we could do it on a non-council community development day, that might be better. We could do it in the evening so that more people could attend. You know, and advertise it so that people know that we're having it. And I think the important thing to remember is that we have taken over the Deers home. We continue to build more houses and more houses and more houses and more houses. They have nowhere to go.
Okay, right.
So I think we have to remember that.
Okay, that's very true. Thank you, Mrs. Mitchell. Law Director Deary.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, may I suggest that perhaps essentially a special meeting of the Community Development Committee, you know, specifically just on this subject for discussion only, and that way, you know, again, it is a public meeting. It would be announced by the clerk's office. It could be town hall style, but again, just for purposes of publication and informing the public, it would be advertised as a meeting, a special meeting on an off day of the Community Development Committee.
Okay, thank you very much, Law Director Deary. I think that's an excellent idea. I believe that getting with this representative to see what dates are available, that he could come in to do it here at City Hall and council chambers on an off night like we discussed, and which is convenient for most of council members as well. You know, and then obviously, like the law director just indicated, that we would make that public, that meeting, with plenty of time for people to attend, so they can ask their questions as well as we ask our questions. Okay, are there any other further questions from anyone, even in the audience, in regards to this topic? Okay, seeing none and seeing no further, any more questions or concerns from anyone on the panel, we'll stay tuned and we'll come up with a date. All right, at this time, I'd ask Mr. Stewart to please call Finance.
I'll call finance order.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Two items on the agenda. The first one is the approval of the joint meeting minutes from November 14th and from November 28th, 2022.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Mitchell.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sarah.
Question?
Question on the motion, sorry. All those in favor of the motion, please use the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Okay, item 2 is the matter of amending the American Rescue Plan Essential Services and Small Business Policy and Procedure Manual. Mr. Stewart.
Yes, this was referred by me. This is when we had some conversation, maybe about a month and a half ago, in regards to the ARPA funds, and more specifically towards essential services, where there was, you know, it was patterned off of the American CARES Act for the essential services, where at a certain dollar amount that, you know, there was a committee within the mayor's administration that was kind of where that need would be. And that's what's kind of take over for here for the ARPA funds, that same policy or procedures. And I thought maybe we should, you know, have a little bit more of an oversight committee, whether it come through the finance committee or another committee, to kind of review these funds that were coming over and through. And that's why I wanted to kind of bring this back to the forefront, to have those conversations. I did have the conversation with the mayor today, maybe what his plan was. So moving forward for the 2023. And at this time, I want to have Ms. Scott come up, kind of explain the program, and then if the mayor wants to come in and weigh in, and or Mr. Williams to kind of expound upon maybe what's happening currently now, what's in the queue on some of these essential services and small businesses to date, and then potentially a discussion of what's going to be maybe forthcoming for the 2023. So, Ms. Scott, can you kind of tell us what's kind of going on, how everything's in place?
Yes, through you. As you had just mentioned, we do have this essential services program. We did one round of funding to date. Those applications were due in December of last year. We currently have multiple nonprofit organizations that are under subrecipient agreements totaling $365,000 under the essential services. And then just recently, Neighborhood Alliance was awarded an additional $150,000, and that was for their kitchen program, and that $150,000 came out of the essential services budget. So we, to date, have a total of $515,000 that are encumbered under this program, leaving about $485,000 remaining. So about a month and a half ago, it was proposed to start a capital improvement program to support the Neighborhood Alliance request. We also did receive a request from a nonprofit organization for $500,000 for improvements to their facility. Recently, we did receive an application for another nonprofit organization recently for $100,000 for a public service program through essential services. And then we also had a local church reach out who wanted to inquire about maybe receiving some funding for a daycare, to open up a daycare essentially. And then we also sent out an application last week to another church who stated that they were in need of some money for, I'm not quite sure what yet, it was not specific. So that's kind of where we're at today with this specific pot of money.
Okay, and that's what it was kind of brought forth at the forefront with Neighborhood Alliance when they were doing their kitchen. That was brought up by the law director's office in regards to they didn't think that was for those specific request that was more of a capital need than an essential service. But we committed to that, and we knew that it was a good cause. And we're not saying that these aren't good causes to do that, but we wanted to have some transparency and to check some balances of where things were going and moving forward with that. Law Director Deary, if you want to weigh in on.
Yes, just briefly, Mr. Chair. It is the consensus of my office that the original ordinance, which created the essential services program from July of 2021, which was, or in actual the policy and procedure handbook more specifically, which was from last November, could be amended, and we would recommend it being amended to be brought in to allow capital projects. Federal law and the guidelines for ARPA do allow capital projects. Initially, when our enabling legislation was passed, it was stricter than the federal guidelines. I don't, in speaking with Mrs. Scott and Ms. Almabayad and also Director Calvert, that was not, I believe, intentionally done. So it would be our recommendation that we would amend that ordinance to allow for capital projects under our current programming. And we believe that that would be able to be done in pretty short order as far as to allow for future capital projects, rather than, for example, the Neighborhood Alliance Kitchen project having to kind of be that one-off extraordinary remedy of coming back to council. We did that because as you stated, Mr. Chair, the capital project was not currently anticipated and allowed for within the procedures manual.
Right. And then in speaking with, go ahead, Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Ms. Scott or Mrs. Deary, what are the qualifications or guidelines that we're using for these subrecipients, these nonprofits, to receive money? What guidelines are there? I know they have to fill out an application. What specifically are we looking for? How do they get the money? What qualifies them?
Through you. So the nonprofit, when they apply, they have to identify a need that was from COVID and what their proposed program or project is going to do to resolve that need as a direct result of COVID. So there are certain requirements that have to be met so that we are compliant with the federal regulations. So that is the first thing that we look for. There are also other requirements that we look at, like they have to have a UEI number, meaning they have to be registered with SAM.gov, they have to show financial capacity, et cetera.
Thank you.
So with that being said, I know that Law Director Deary referenced Director Calvert as being part of some of these discussions with this plan. And so I know there may be both of you are working together on that. So I don't know if Mr. Williams wants to weigh in or Ms. Calvert in regards to what's being, talked about here, just so there's further understanding of what's before us here tonight.
Through you, Chair. So part of what we proposed a few months back was to create a capital program because of some of the uniqueness between the essential services and capital. For an example, everyone in the capital program who's applying must be an owner of the property. And that's one of the unique differences as opposed to essential services. If you're offering those services, you don't need to be the owner of the property. Whereas if you're having capital improvements, one of the unique qualifiers that we put was that you had to be the owner of that property, so that we're not repairing a roof or a boiler for someone who doesn't own the property, and they could then be evicted or lose that property, and we've thus now invested into a property that is not serving that. So I think in the spirit of transparency in our meetings with law, we very much appreciate those consistencies needed in the essential service piece, but we believe the capital program, and again, we presented, I think, for discussion, that program, and that could be it's quickly adopted as these amendments, and that would address all of the elements of the oversight, the committee structure that would address it so it's consistent with the other services and the business services, but would also, I think, address some of the unique things around capital versus the essential services. And again, I think also in short order, we would be able to present that for decision, discussion, and advance that quickly also.
Okay. Ms. Davis, did you have a question in regards to it? Or no? Okay. So if Law Director, you could go ahead and weigh in on
Yes,
maybe what's
with
being...
all due respect, though, this matter has been referred, and as far as I know, no capital program has yet been referred. Also, I just, for my understanding, Mr. Plesky, with this money from ARPA, that was only appropriated through the end of the calendar year. So this $485,000 remaining that Mrs. Scott referred to, would that be carried over into the new calendar year, or will that need to be reallocated by council?
Through you, so there's through to Ashley. Ashley, there's $485,000 that's appropriated but not used.
Through you, that is correct.
So that would have to be included in the 2023 permanent appropriation. And also, when we address the issue of the kitchen for neighborhood alliances, we moved $150,000 from essential services, and we created on the books a department, essential services capital needs. So that is already set up on the books. There's $150,000 appropriated there, and I believe that's encumbered.
And just for the record, we did the round of essential services, and we did not post for a second round of that, and we had no intention of doing that. That's why, again, in the presentation that we had a month and a half, 2 months ago, it was to move all of the uncommitted funds from the essential services into that capital fund. So we're trying to get to essentially the same place. It's a question of which route do we go to get there. And so, that point.
Right. Ms. Mitchell, did you want to weigh in on before?
If I may, Mr. Chair, through you, to Ms. Scott, is there a target area that these nonprofits have to be in, or is this open to anyone in the city? I know ARPA funds were, they had a target area. Is it the same, or are they open to anyone? Thank you.
Through you, essentially, this would be open to any nonprofit through the city, as long as the beneficiaries and the intent of what they're doing, their capital need, is going to address something, from COVID. So, for example, the Neighborhood Alliance Kitchen is a great example of that.
If I may. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, once again. So what is okay, so I know people lost their jobs because of COVID, and people had a hard time because of COVID. How are the nonprofits being affected? What are you looking for specifically?
Through you, so as I stated, we'll just use Neighborhood Alliance as an example. Food is a need. People lost their jobs. That is something that has increased significantly. So by them, building this kitchen, it's creating a program, essentially, expanding on a program that's going to serve that need to the community. So it's those type of requests, essentially, that we would be looking for, where their project would address a community need.
Thank you, Ms. Scott.
Also, if I could, through the chair, also we found that through the requests from nonprofits is they suffered some of the conditions that other businesses have in the capital world. Their roofs are falling in. And again, to continue to provide the services they're providing, they've requested support in those areas. And because of their financial impact of COVID, it's caused some collateral things in which they're trying to address those needs. And again, the services they provide are essential to the well-being of our residents also.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. So I guess my question would be then, so if we have an essential service item that's in place, and we've talked about Neighborhood Alliance we've kind of accommodated that with the capital improvement, would it not be easier just to amend the policy to add the capital improvement or any other line item that would affect when these applications come in? I mean, something's already in place. It's just really amending that instead of just totally pushing that aside and just because of the capital need improvement. You could add it, it still would be there, and it would still be evaluating that. Because we did it with Neighborhood Alliance. It was a little bit after the fact, but that would be the direction that seems like maybe the administration's trying to go. I just don't know why we just can't implement it that way and just add it to that, amend the policy and procedures.
So through the chair, and perhaps we could do that. I think a few things that I see challenging is one, I think when we discussed the Neighborhood Alliance, is part of that rationale was this program was kind of attached, it was coming along. The other thing, again, is on the ownership piece, we would have to also add that as a prerequisite. The other thing that's a little challenging is, and I don't know, this is maybe something we just have to work out in my top of my head, is so we have a separate program which then determines who can apply. Reopening the can of worms and allowing all the other nonprofits of essential services to apply also. So right now, if we just open this up and we haven't set it aside for capital, that means other essential services providing all kinds of other services which you've already had around for would be in the pool, and we're going to get another $1 million of requests, and that just creates, so we're mixing apples and oranges kind of, and we would like to try and keep this so that now we're addressing this specific capital need. We've given great opportunity for folks to apply in that other area, and I think putting those two together means that we're going to get a lot of requests that we're going to have to, that's just the thought, so.
Sure. With that being said then, so some of the applications that you're speaking to, what are we doing about that have come in? Are we just not going to accept those, or?
Through you, we have not funded any applications that have been received after the deadline from the first round of funding.
Okay.
So through you, Chair,
sure.
I think at the next meeting, we would be ready to present the capital program, and we could expedite that fairly quickly, and we could meet with the director and make sure that it's all in alignment. We would, have law review that. I think perhaps they've already reviewed most of it, and we could get that to them, because I think it's already developed, correct, Director?
Through you, so a draft program for capital expenditures was created, that was put in the boxes. That agenda item was tabled, so we are more than happy to present whatever you would like, whether it be, you know, that program specifically. We could work. Law Department has not reviewed that completely to date, so you know, we have asked for a little bit of input, but I would, you know, definitely work with them further on that.
Okay. Well, Director Deere, I guess we'll just kind of weigh in on, if you want to weigh briefly on that, what's brought to the forefront about as far as the capital improvements over and through. We have more discussion about it. I just kind of wanted to bring this to the forefront because there's been, you know, moving forward when we get to the 2023, and we just kind of want to have a clean slate of what is the direction of what we're trying to do here. So, Law Director Deary.
Through you, Mr. Chair, my office would be happy to review any proposed program. I would just remind the committee that I don't believe that we will be having another committee meeting prior to our first meeting in January. So the earliest that I believe that full council would be looking at this would be the end of January.
Well, I think there would be some communication, I guess, obviously with you, Director Scott, and the administrative team, just to kind of get a path moving forward. I just want to make sure that we have a clear understanding of what we're trying to do here, even though it's been expressed, just so that we make sure that, you know, at the end, when this is all finalized, that we're all on the same page with it. So, Philippian.
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you. And obviously, the chair has the authority to call a special meeting if it's something that you wanted to take care of before the end of the year, I believe.
I think this is too much in its infancy stage. We got some preliminary suggestions that are out there as far as maybe what's being brought before us, but I don't foresee we can maybe move this into the first of the year, and whatever we could have a meeting of everybody together to make sure we're on the same page with it. So, all right,
sure.
So at this point, we'll just kind of put it in. Yes, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you. So just to make sure I understand your argument, for the sake of ease, transparency, and consistency, you'd like to move essential services under the direction of council or some other quasi-legislative body. Did I understand that correctly?
That would be what appears that the administration was maybe learning for is more of a involvement for the capital improvements, but that's being suggested over and through here. Again, I just want to make sure that the essential services that are currently in place right now for the 2022 budget are being addressed, and that there's no, that we're in compliance with everything that we're doing. So, Law Director Deary.
Excuse me. Through you, Mr. Chair. So basically, it's kind of a two-pronged approach. Number one, obviously, to address either through a new program or, as we discussed this evening, an amendment to specifically address capital projects as part of ARPA, since the legislation does not specifically address capital improvements. And then secondly, as has been consistently recommended since we discovered this about a year ago, the Law Director's Office is in favor of this programming, that the applications would be improved by the Economic Development Committee or a similarly composed committee for purposes of consistency, openness, and to avoid any appearance of impropriety, just to insulate the city. Also, and just to repeat what Mr. Pileski said, obviously the money will need to be reappropriated into the new calendar year, and as Mrs. Scott said, the deadline has passed, so the deadline for the applicants, so there's no pending, I guess, technically. You're holding applications, but there's no, I guess, pending awards to be made until there's anything further legislation-wise. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Lippian.
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you. So to understand the Law Director's point and yours as well, I hear that these capital improvement pieces of the program are unique and generally exceptions to the rule. Do I grasp that correctly?
As it currently stands with the legislation that City Council passed last November, yes, capital needs are not contemplated by City Council's ordinance.
Philippian.
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you. it seems that there's a mechanism of oversight for this exception, and where it comes to council, it seems like it's functioning pretty well. Obviously, we've got a long way to go to get it to be perfect. I'm examining the use of the word transparency, and I'm just trying to see if there's any, I'm trying to make sure that the mayor's office is working with council. So what I'm trying to understand is for transparency's sake, have there been good interactions with the mayor seeking council's input on various essential services applications and the desires of council, and a general good collaborative relationship established there?
Well, I think, and the mayor could probably speak to this, and more welcome, but I think it was, we kind of looked at it from the standpoint as the blueprint was used for the CARES Act. And that's what we used for the ARPA fund within regards to that, because that was our template, if you will. And so now we're just trying to, have a little bit more oversight from a councilmatic perspective, whether it comes to a overseeing committee like the Elyria Economic Development Committee, or whether it comes to a joint meeting with the Community Development and Finance, whatever mechanism. It's just another oversight, the checks and balance of who applied for it, why they applied for it. I think those are those nonprofits that came through, and the Neighborhood Alliance, we're not questioning anything over there. We're just trying to have an account of what has been spent or what is appropriated, so that we can, moving forward, bring it to the committee again, or have that brought to a committee so that we can have some more insight on it. So, no, I don't think there was any type of, they're doing this for this person here or that, if that's what you're asking. No. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you. So there's no assertion of opacity on the part of the mayoral administration in reference to transparency, just simply a desire for oversight. So perhaps instead of transparency, the operative word would be oversight, ease, and consistency.
Okay, Mr. Lippian, I get what you're trying to do, but it's okay. I think you're just really making more of this than what it is. I think we just want to have clarity on what's being here, what's being brought that will be coming for this. It's a case of openness and making sure that everyone is understanding who's getting the money or not. It's not a question they're hiding something or they're not. It's not that case at all. So if you want to question transparency, then that's your language and verbiage if you want to use it against me as my referral. So at this point, the conversation is going to be done. We'll reconvene with...
Mr. Chair, point of order.
No, point of order. I am the chair. This is what we're going to do. So at this point... Point
of order, the chair does not have the power to...
Okay, I'm pleased.
I would like to make a motion that we limit the remainder of the conversation on this topic to 5 minutes. Through you, Mr. Chair.
No, I'm not done.
That requires a second.
Is there a second?
Right.
Motion failed.
I just would simply like to state through you, Mr. Chair, for the remainder of my recognition, I am not questioning you. I am simply using the words you used, which was transparency, and trying to understand your point. I just want to make sure that there's good collaboration going on throughout council. I had an opportunity to speak with the First Ward, several residents as it pertains to this, and some of the questions they had was if we're going to have a quasi-legislative committee, who would be appointing the members of this legislative committee? They would want to make sure that it's a group that has no interests, and these were just some of the points that members of my ward had brought to the fore. When it comes to consistency, it would be equally consistent, not that I'm advocating for this, but equally consistent for the Elyria Economic Development Committee, for the mayor to manage both of these programs, both the small business program and the essential services. Not that I'm advocating for that, but that would also be a prescriptive solution for consistency. So as we're tossing these ideas around, I just wanted to add these to the pot. No accusations are being made, Mr. Chair, of course. I'm just trying to get clear definitions on the verbiage.
Thank you, Mr. Lippian. Moving forward, we'll just have a, communication with the law director's office, administration, community development, block grant. We'll get on the same pages here, the path moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, there's no further business for community development, so I would accept a motion to adjourn community development.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Lippian.
Second.
Second by Mr. Oswald. Question on the motion. All in favor of the motion, please use the voting sign. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Community development is adjourned.
And if the members of community development could send the committee report file back, please. Goes to the clerk's office. Scares me. Thank you. Hopefully it still has what was in it when I sent it back down.
Okay, we all have all the finances still here? Yes, okay. So we're going to continue on with finance. First item on the agenda is the approval of the finance meetings for November 14th and 28th of 2022. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sarah, second by Ms. Davis. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item number 2. We considered the matter Item number 2, we've considered the matter of inactive delinquent public utility accounts. A resolution authorizing said delinquent accounts to be certified to Lorraine County Auditor's Office per the attached list. Director Williams, who's handling that one? Oh, Ms. Connor, I'm sorry, I didn't see you over there. My apologies. Ms. Connor?
Good evening. Through you, Mr. Chair. The list was presented and approved by the Utilities Resolution Board. Our total is $34,255.36. Several of these accounts are listed as multi-unit accounts. Those are one-metered housing that has more than one tenant in there, and they pay their water bills or utility bills through their rent. So we do not shut them off.
Do you have the status, do you have the attachment, Ms. Connor? Do you have it? Okay, you have it, okay. So we'll accompany this with the committee report.
It's already sitting as
Okay. Is there, anybody have any questions for Ms. Connor in regards to what's being brought before us here? If not, call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you, Ms. Connor.
Thank you.
Item number 3, we've considered the matter of the purchase of Lenco armored vehicle for the Elyria Police Department at the cost of $258,092. This is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter an agreement for the purchase of said equipment. Funds were appropriated as of 11/21/22 for ordinance number 2022-187. Can I get a motion to get it on the floor?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Davis.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sear. Chief Pelko.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. So I would like to purchase a Lenco armored vehicle. This will be mainly, purpose will be for our special response team, but it'll be used for other situations as well. The cost of this vehicle is just under $260,000 at $258,092. The funds have already been appropriated. They are sole source provider, have a GSA contract. I've personally witnessed a armored vehicle save the life of a fellow officer in my lifetime. I think this is something that we need with all of our calls we go on to armed individuals. There was a situation not too long ago where we could have used it when we had an armed subject inside of a house. I don't think you can put a price tag on someone's life, an officer's life. And in the material I gave you, there's some stories in there about how the armored vehicle actually saved the citizen's life by them being inside the officers being inside the armored vehicle, knowing that they wouldn't have to shoot the officer or the citizen who was armed, and they were eventually able to talk them out and stuff. So I think it'd be a win-win situation for everybody, and it's a well-needed piece of equipment that we need.
I agree with you, Chief. There's no price on life. We'll run through that. I think this is incredible. Law Director Deary.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Chief, you had requested that this be done on an emergency, and I would imagine, much like other vehicle requests that come before council, is that because of the long lead time for a specialized vehicle?
Yeah, so it's going to take at least a year for it to get built.
All right.
Right. Yep. That was going to be a question for that as well, Chief. Does anybody else have any questions for the Chief? Ms. Davis.
Through you, Chair. So how long do you think a vehicle like this could last? Are we looking at 10 years, 15 years, or what does...
I'm thinking it'll last at least 15, possibly 20 years for us.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the Finance Committee? Law Director Deary did pose this as, and the Chief did acknowledge it as an emergency. So does the motion concur with it is put it on as emergency?
Through you, Chair. But how long does it take this vehicle to be built anyway? Yeah, we're talking...
Law Director Deary.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
It'll take a year, I'm sorry.
Right. Oh, it will take over a year, so the quicker the authorization is made, then the quicker that they can make the request.
Yeah.
And their order can get in the hopper.
Emergency concur.
Is a second?
Concur.
Is there any further discussion?
Question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carried. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Oh, you're back at it again. Item number 5. We consider the matter of camera replacement for the Elyria Police Department at a cost of $83,143.78. In ordinance authorizing the agreement through the state purchasing contract, emergency applies as requested. Funds were appropriated on 11/21/2022 per ordinance 2022-187. Can I get a motion to get it on the floor?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sarah.
Second.
Second by Mr. Snyder. Chief Pelko.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. So we had IT, our cameras at the police department are over 20, 22 years old. They need to be replaced and updated inside and outside the police station. There have been several incidences where we needed to access these cameras for crimes outside and for things inside. IT had come up with a price of $83,143.78 to replace this entire system. The money is already appropriated by finance. Purchasing will be done by state contract pricing. And if I could get this done as emergency, that would be greatly appreciated as well.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Any questions for Chief Pelko with what's being requested here? There's no further discussion. I'll call for the question.
Question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item number 5, we've considered the matter of the purchase of a 2023 Ford Explorer Interceptor vehicle similar to the, in price and function to the previous purchase for the Elyria Police Department. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter an agreement for the purchase of said equipment. Funds were appropriated. This is a standard emergency. Can I get a motion to get it on the floor?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sarah.
Second.
Second by Mr. Snyder. Chief Pelko.
Yes, I would, through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to purchase another 2023 Ford Explorer Police Intercept vehicle for patrol. It's going to cost us $43,000, $185 for the vehicle, and another $7,000 to upfit the vehicle. Money's been appropriated by finance. Purchasing will be done via state contract pricing. And again, if we could also get this done as an emergency, it would be greatly appreciated.
Any questions for the chief on what's being requested? All right, can I call for the question?
Question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Number 6, we consider the matter of hiring a primary plans examiner and a backup plans examiner per section 104 of the Ohio Building Code. In order to authorize the mayor to advertise for bids and enter into a contract for professional services. Mr. Farkas, is this a emergency?
Yes, Mr. Chair,
Okay.
please.
So emergency does apply. Can I get a motion to get on the floor?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sarah,
Second.
second by Ms. Davis. Mr. Farkas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As required by the 2017 Ohio Building Code, Section 104.2.11 indicates a building official shall be required to obtain a master plans examiner to effectively examine the plans per construction documents and verify code compliance. This is a standard renewal that we typically do every year and put the bids out for contract. Just going through the motions. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Farkas? Standard procedure. Yes, Ms. Davis?
Do you, so I didn't see, do you have any idea of the cost? I see it's concurrent from a year's past, but is there any change in the cost of what we're looking at?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Davis. The past cost for the plans exams, last year budget was around $100,000, $105,000. Due to cost increase, I put it up to about $120,000.
Fortunately, that's just everything's going up, so. Flood Director Deary.
Through you, Mr. Chair, are we going out for bids on this, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so obviously the lowest and best bid, but
He's just trying to give a ballpark of where things
yep.
are at.
God, thank you.
Is there any further discussion?
Question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Farkas. Item number 7, we consider a matter of amending the salary ordinance for the municipal court, Chapter 165 employees. In order to authorize the muni court position, probation officer to incorporate the 3% increase, effective pay period 1 of 2023, Secretary 2, specialized dockets to include the 3% increase. Can I get a motion to get it on the floor?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Schneider.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Mr. Farrell.
Thank you, Chairman. Ordinance 2022-6 authorized increases for the non-bargaining 165 employees, which included the muni court. And subsequent to that, there was 2 ordinances passed. One increased the salary for the probation officer to a rate that's higher than the January 2023 rate. And the Community Court Secretary 2 position was established with a separate ordinance. And so that position wasn't on the 2023 salary increase at all. So what this is doing is allowing for that 3% increase to both of these positions.
Any questions for Mr. Farrell? I'm guessing, Mr. Farrell, this is an emergency? Or do you?
Yes, it would be. To be in place for pay period 1, unless the amendment, or, ordinance 2022-6 created the increase as a pay period 1, so.
Mr. Tolet?
If we didn't do it as an emergency, then they would have to do retro pay, and isn't that an issue?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, if we didn't do it as an emergency, there would probably be a request from the court to include it as of January 1, which would cause us to.
I apologize, Mr. Chair, I said that backwards.
Sure. Is there any further discussion? Any further questions for Mr. Farrell regarding this? Question has been called. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item number 8, we've considered the matter of the salary orders for Muni Court part-time employees. In order to authorize the Muni Court positions to incorporate changes to comply with the 2023 State of Ohio minimum wage rate of $10.10 per hour. Can I get a motion to get it on the floor?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Davis.
Second.
Second by Mr. Snyder. Mr. Farrell.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, through you, the State of Ohio minimum wage is going to $10.10 as of January 1. And so I believe there was only 2, I don't have the current exhibit in front of me for the part-time, but I believe there was 2 positions, the assessment server Muni Court and the process server Muni Court, which have a number of grades that are below that. So this just brings them into compliance with the State of Ohio's new rate.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Farrell regarding this? Mr. Farrell, this would be an emergency as well?
Yes, please.
Does the motion concur?
Concur.
Second?
Concur.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Number 9, we've considered a matter of amending the salary ordinance for the Muni Court part-time seasonal employees. In order to authorize the Muni Court positions to incorporate changes to comply with the 2020. Oh, okay. I'll stand corrected on that for, yeah. Right. Excuse me, this would be, City of Elyria. Let me reread that. We consider a matter of the amendments for salary ordinance for the City of Elyria part-time seasonal employees in order to authorize the City of Elyria positions to incorporate changes to comply with the 2023 State of Ohio minimum wage rate of $10.10 per hour. Standard emergency applies. Can I get a motion to get it on the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Second by Mr. Schneider.
There, had it.
Sarah, I'm sorry, Mr. Sarah? Yeah. Mr. Farrell, I think this would be kind of fall in line with what you talked about.
This explanation is the same as the Muni Court part-timers, but a number of positions were below the $10.10, most of them involving the Parks and Rec department, but this would bring them in compliance as well.
Very good. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Sarah.
Do we need to do the emergency clause?
That was part of the motion that you
It
had.
was.
Yep. Is there any further discussion?
Question?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item number 10. We've considered the matter of increasing the judges and clerk of court salaries in accordance with Ohio Revised Code 1901.31C, 2 and 3, and 1901.11C. In ordinance authorizing the city of Elyria share is 3/5 of $75,875.25 of judge's salary effective January 1st of 2023, which will increase to $148,775. Clerk of court is based at 85% of the judge's salary effective January 1st of 20, should be 20, yeah. That's what it said. Be 23. It should be 2023. Okay, we got it. Clerk of courts is based on 85% of the judge's salary effective January 1st of 2023 at a total of $126,458.75, and this would be standard emergency. Can I get a motion to get it on the floor?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Schneider.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sarad. Mr. Farrell.
Thank you, Chairman. So, yes, the Muni Court judge's salaries are set by the Ohio Supreme Court, and as such, the Muni Court clerk's salary is 85% of that. The numbers, I think I heard them, understood them all as you read them. So it's the Muni Court city share, which is 60%, is the Muni Court clerk city share is a 75/8, 75/25. And then the county picks up the balance of $50,583.50 for a total of $126,458.75. The judge's salaries, the administrative judge has a stipend of $1,500 over the Muni Court judge, so the Muni Court administrative judge is $150,275. The city share of that is $37,950, and the Muni Court judge of $148,775. The city share for that is $37,050, and these increases were passed. They actually go through 2029. So I'll see you next Christmas with this.
Through you, Mr. Chair, so the judge's increase is covered by the state.
Right.
But the clerk's increase, it'll be part on the city.
Right.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion in regards to what's brought before us?
Question?
Question's been called. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Emergency was part of it. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Kind of lost my train of thought there. Okay. Number 11, we've considered the matter of the transfer of monies per the court order, an ordinance authorizing the said transfer of monies. Standard emergency applies. Can I get a motion to get it on the floor?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sarah, second by Mr. Schneider.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll take this one. So at the end of the year, I look at every fund to make sure that no fund has a negative cash balance, because the state auditor's office frowns upon that. So typically every year, there's some of the muni court special revenue funds that slip into the negative, and we transfer monies from one of their other muni court special revenue funds. So we still have one payroll to post, so I'm estimating these numbers. So it looks like the legal research and court computerization fund will be at a negative $7,000 in cash, give or take. The muni court special collections fund approximately $17,000 in the red, and the muni court special probation fund approximately $12,000 in the red. So I contacted Judge White, who's the administrative judge, and asked him for a court order authorizing me to, or ordering me to transfer $36,000 from the muni court security fund to the three funds that I just mentioned. So despite being ordered by the court, I still need an ordinance approving the transfer.
Yes. Is there any further discussion or questions for the finance director?
Question?
Question's been called. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay. Motion carried. Okay. Item number 12. We've considered a matter of amendment of the 2022 permanent appropriations in order to authorize the appropriation changes to ordinance 2022-45 as per the attached. Can I get a motion to get it on the floor? Moved by Ms. Davis.
Second.
Second by Mr. Schneider.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we're winding down the year, as you know, and we still have one payroll to post. But I go through the current permanent appropriation just to make sure that everything's in order. If you go to page 3, John. Bottom of page 3. So right there, you see the general fund.
Go.
So the budget really doesn't change. So we needed $97,300 in various departments, and I moved that from other line items and departments. So the changes equal out. So adding 97.3 to various and taking 97,300 from other accounts. So the budget remains the same in total.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go to the very last page, I don't really think we need to go through every fund, every department, but there's pretty much minimal change. There's a 800, and if you see in the green, there's 800 and, what is that?
90.
90. And a reduction of 1,565.
So that's more so at the wastewater or sanitation?
Yeah, there's like, what's that,
489.
480, yeah, in the wastewaters. Yeah, the 900, basically sanitation, that was appropriated in the ARPA. If you recall, we appropriated monies in the ARPA fund for sanitation, so we never took it out of the original appropriation of sanitation. So I really didn't need to do that, but I just wanted to do that to make sure everybody understood why the expenses in sanitation went down, is because we appropriated money in the ARPA fund to help that fund out.
right.
So we didn't have to raise rates to the residents.
Right. Okay. Anybody have any questions regarding the budget? Mr. Tolet?
Through you, Mr. Chair, for Mr. Pileski, you have to show that as a debit and a credit on our statement, correct? Like the sanitation, when we applied those ARPA funds, it just can't be a wash. You have to show the incoming and the outgoing for that, correct?
Well, so ARPA is a separate set of money, separate pot of money, separate funds. So we're just, I think we appropriated $1 million in the sanitation fund, I believe, or not the sanitation, the ARPA. So the money's really not, the appropriation changes. There's no money, no cash changing from one fund to the other. It's just appropriating less in the sanitation and adding and doing that the same amount in the ARPA fund or close to it. Yeah. Other than that, they're just so those two items are about 1.3 million, so that makes up most of the reductions at the bottom.
Mr. Pileski or Mr. Farrell, are there any other ones that kind of stand out that?
No, not that I can think of. It's pretty, I mean, I could have done a lot more reductions, but I didn't see the need to.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Pileski in regards to what's for the 2022 permanent? Anybody? No? No call, so there's no further discussion in regards to that?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Pileski, Mr. Farrell, and your staff. Okay. I believe we received the temporary for 2023 appropriations this evening. So I'm going to get that onto the floor, and Mayor Whitfield is here to kind of talk about that. Again, this is just the temporary, this is not the permanent, so we're going to go through some of the highlights of the appropriations, and then have a couple meetings here. I know that the mayors were trying to, the sooner we get this passed and move, the sooner we can maybe move forward with a lot of projects and things like that. So, but with that being said, let me get a motion to get this on the floor. We've considered the matter of the 2023 temporary appropriations. An ordinance authorizing the approval of the attached list of temporary appropriations for the year of 2023. Can I get a motion to get it on the floor?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sarah.
Second.
Second by Mr. Snyder. Mayor Whitfield.
Thank you, Council President, and good evening, committee members. Just to add a little bit of context of why, one, I'm presenting and to talk about what you're going to have here presented to you in a second. A part of the job of mayor is to present a budget to City Council. And so we've spent, a great amount of time over these past couple months working with our department heads to prepare their budgets. And we know most of the budget temporary that's going to be passed today is going to fit with the tradition that you've done in the past of the 30% approval. But we have several departments or 3 departments today that we actually want to present to you for the full year, as well as we're also going to be presenting to you a full slate for issue 6. If you remember last year, because we expedited the process to approve issue 6, we were able to pave the roads earlier, start projects earlier, and actually our residents were able to enjoy the roads before the snow and actually able to just to see their work done and be able to enjoy it more throughout the year. So a similar process this year. We want to present a slate to you for issue 6 projects. Today, you'll hear from the 3 departments that I mentioned that are ready. I do want to give a quick shout out, and I don't want to be long. We challenged all our department heads to try to get their budgets in early, and all of them met the challenge. There's some kinks we got to work out. This was their first time using the New World system. They were, we wanted them to be empowered to do their own budgets, but they did an amazing job. And we look forward to the future discussions when we start talking about the permanent. You'll hear a lot of their feedback. So again, we spent about 100 hours on this budgeting process at least, and I'm proud of the work that the departments have done. And our first that's going to be presenting tonight is the Dean, Mr. Terry Corzan. He'll be presenting first. So, Mr. Corzan.
Mr. Corzan, welcome.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. First of all, we had discussed possibilities of getting our entire budget put into the temporary budget for 2023, and I'd like to express my appreciation for the possibility of approaching that goal. There are several important advantages for accomplishing this. Our 2023 budget was prepared with the current rate study in mind. All personnel and capital needs of the department are included to ensure the proper operation and maintenance of the plant, the collection system, and the 26 pump stations throughout the city as designed. So please allow me to provide some details. As you can see on the Excel sheet that's in your packet, this is our 2023 to 2027 capital outlay document, and there are a number of capital outlay needs, not wants, but needs, to continue existing process upgrades within the plant, the collection system, and at those 26 lift stations throughout the city to keep these systems in operation and running efficiently. Over the past couple of years, we've encountered some supply chain issues such that it now takes several months to over a year, sometimes 2 years, to take delivery of materials after placing orders. Prior to 2022, our department had never had to encumber capital purchase orders into the following year. While it may appear that our 2023 capital outlay request is high, please keep in mind that $612,655 of that request is encumbered purchase orders from 2022 for items that were ordered in 2022 but not yet received. Unfortunately, this is a paradigm shift to how we need to operate by keeping more critical parts, pipes, pumps, motors, drives, etc., on hand, because we need to keep the processes running. We can't wait 2 to 3 months or longer to get critical spare parts. Additionally, in talking with several of our vendors regarding projected purchases for 2024, we were informed that by the vendors that if we wanted certain items delivered in 2024, we would have to order them in 2023. As such, we've added 14 capital items that would have been requested in 2024 into the 2023 capital request. While that will provide relief for 2024, it makes the 2023 capital outlay total higher than it would or should have been. The items on the capital outlay document that are highlighted are the ones that we moved from 2024 into 2023 because of that. The total for those items is $748,800. So between those two numbers I just gave you, that's like $1.3 million above what our capital outlay ask would have originally been. The quotes listed on the capital outlay document are current, and most are locked in through mid-January. Nowadays, we can only get quotes for up to 30 days, sometimes not even that, because of the inflationary aspects that are going on. The monetary advantage of having all of this in the temporary budget is that we will not have to procure new quotes, which with the current inflation will be much higher after January. We can place orders right out of the gate after the first of the year at lower cost and with the ability to get most of these items in 2023. There's another sheet in there for the operation and maintenance line items. That's a 2-page document. The 4-page document explains what all of these things in the capital outlay are for. So I'm not going to go through this whole list of items, but there's an explanation for each and every one of these capital outlay items and what project it's for and what it's going to do. But most of our operation and maintenance line items have stayed the same as for 2022, with a few exceptions such as fuel, natural gas, and electricity due to inflation for those costs. Our personnel levels are staying the same as we had in 2021 and 22. We are looking forward to maintaining our high level of customer service to the residents while moving our projects forward and continuing our repair and maintenance schedules. Our goals and accomplishments are primarily tied to our capital outlay projects, which, by the way, we do all of them in-house. We don't incur outside fees to install the equipment and everything that we're ordering through capital outlay or repair and maintenance. So we save a bundle there. We have an excellent skilled maintenance team and team of electricians who handle all this stuff. And Shane Stewart, our operations supervisor, one of my second in command, is here, and Erin Stefik has been under the weather today, so she is the superintendent of the collection system. She is watching live stream. But our goals and accomplishments are tied around these capital outlay projects, but we do have a number of goals that are not. For example, customer service is our #1 goal, and it's something that we're always working on, whether it's in the plant, the collection system, whoever's answering the phones to take the calls from the residents. We're always trying to improve that. Continuous process improvement is something that you all are not unfamiliar with. It's something that we're always looking at to reduce costs and gain efficiency with everything that we're doing. We continue to search for state, federal grants to pay for some of the larger infrastructure improvement projects, and thanks to the mayor's team, the city has capitalized on some of that. There's not much available in the way of wastewater at this point, but we're hoping that that's going to change. We maintain our aggressive maintenance programs in the plant, collection system, and at the 26 lift stations to reduce downtime and also the need for overtime. We've been able to cut overtime at the plant dramatically through what we're doing with these programs. For example, in 2022 to date, we've taken 415 sewer-related calls. 370 of those calls were private property backup issues. Only one of those was caused by an issue within the city sewer. So that's less than 0.3%. So we're very proud of that, and that's a reflection on Erin Stefik, Chris Whirling, Brandon Valley, and all the men and women who work on the sewer collection team to make that happen. Another goal is we need to address plant emergency power needs for resiliency, as you all saw with what was going on with the shooting of electrical substations recently. This is something we've had in the works for over a year now, probably 2 years, that we're looking to address this need for emergency power at the plant. And of course, we have our NBDES requirements that we need to stay focused on, make sure that all that's going well. So at this point, I'll entertain any questions.
Very good, Mr. Corzine. You're very thorough. What you do, we appreciate all the hard work that you do. You really turn over every stone to try to help save the city money with grants and your leadership, with overseeing all your employees over there. So it's a testament. You come up here every full council meeting and just really, whether you have a report, most times you do, about the status of your department. So we appreciate everything that you're doing over and through here. So with that, I'll open it up. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Corzine on what's being brought here before us with this? Again, this is just all temporary, what they're asking for their budget for the upcoming 2023. Ms. Davis?
Through you, Chair, when I was looking at, just kind of glancing since we just got it, the packet, is any of this work can be done in-house? Do we have anybody on our staff in the city that can do some of this work, or do you have to outsource all of it?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, as I said before, that all this stuff is stuff that we do in-house. So we pay the capital cost to acquire the equipment and everything that we need, but all this stuff is done in-house through our skilled maintenance and our plant electricians. So we're very fortunate to have that team, and we do save a lot of money. I can't even put a dollar amount on what we save.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Corzan? All right. So we received the information tonight, so I guess just look over everything again. I'm sure you can have a contact or a conversation with Mr. Corzan if you have any questions in regards to what's before him, so that you can, get the information right from him. All right, Mr. Corzan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I could, so let you go into your next department, but for the budgets, was it just you and the department heads, or did you have the finance director initially in these meetings, how did that was set up?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and I can speak a little bit about our process. So it initiated with meetings with the safety service directors, myself, and the department heads, where we'd sit down, talk through how they were doing in 2022, and then what were their assessed needs and goals toward 2023. And we went line by line looking at the trends in terms of how it compared to 2019. 2020 was a weird year, so couldn't really use that as a metric, but looked at 2021 and then saying, all right, how are you looking this year? What are your goals for next year, and how does it fit? And, we looked at salary, looked at contracts, looked at operations, and then we had these conversations around the department's challenges. And again, I think Superintendent just mentioned it. Some of the themes we heard were the delays in ordering things. So once we order things, we're waiting 12 months, 18 months, sometimes longer than that for things. The increased costs due to inflation, and that there were so many carryover projects that didn't get complete in previous years that because of these delays that are now being carried forward. But yeah, it was a very intimate sort of engagement. Then after we met with all them, that we then sat down with Ted and John and went through some of them, and that's the three that you're hearing tonight are three that we felt confident bringing for you today for the full year, and we'll be bringing the rest of them once we get that comfort level.
Corzan, you wanted to add something more?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I had sat down with Mr. Williams to go through my budget, and I've been superintendent here since 2006, and I can tell you that this is the most thorough examination of my budget that I've ever been through. It was very good. We had a great exchange of ideas, and it was excellent. So I just wanted to throw that in.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, Mayor. Move your next person.
Yep. Next will be Director Showalter from Communications, and as you, just for reference point, communications in the city of Elyria refers to our traffic system, not the traditional communications. So if Director Showalter will come on up and share some of his 2022 projects, and we actually have some images that we're going to show as well.
Awesome. Welcome, Mr. Showalter.
How you doing tonight? Communications, as far as the budget's concerned, we're split up between two funds. Half of our budget is out of the general fund, the other half is out of the highway fund. As far as our permanent appropriations, there's not really anything extra. I pretty much took my 22 request from 22, and then I just added any type of encumbrances because, again, the supply chain issues was added to it, but there was nothing extra other than just the encumbrances. What'd you say?
So for those who are, if you're looking at your handout, if that's correct, you're looking at the second line item down in the front, first page? Would that be correct?
Excuse me?
That is correct.
Okay.
That's the general fund
I
communication.
was just letting them know, Mr. Showalter, the committee members, about, we're looking at his budget that's on the first page, second row down. Okay, Mr. Walter, sorry about that. Go ahead. If there's
Yeah,
anything
and
more.
it's split, the way it's on the sheet, it will come up as like the second one, but then further down where the highway, it comes,
Sure.
lines up with the street department.
Right. Mr. Tolet?
Can you give, and your department is sort of unique, all the departments are unique. Can you give some examples, and this is more for the public, supply chain issues that you've encountered?
Oh, yeah. Just anything electronics related, there's just huge delays in it because of the chip issues. You know, you've heard it with the auto and everything else. I've got equipment that's been on back order as long as 16 months.
16 months?
And I've actually had to go out and try and find a used piece of equipment in order to continue to keep the project going.
I've heard, is a lot of that coming from overseas, I'm guessing? And that supply chain, I mean, you might have parts sitting in a bay somewhere waiting to be unloaded right now.
Yeah, February, a lot of our communications equipment, I'm told last time I checked on it, I possibly might get them first quarter 23. But they're in my encumbrances. That's the reason why that we've got encumbrances.
Thank you.
Yep.
Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Showalter in regards to what's being brought forth for us tonight? Okay.
Can you pull that map up? Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to pull the map up? So I kind of wanted to give you a synopsis of 2022 issue 6 fundings on this ongoing traffic project that I'm on. We were able to get 19 intersections onto the Centrac system. There were 2 computer servers needed to get installed. One of them was for the actual traffic. The other one is for license plate recognition for the police department. There were hardware, software changes implemented to get this project. One of the largest challenges to this is supply chain issues, getting material in a timely fashion. I currently have items that are back ordered and won't see product till sometime 23, causing project delays. There's also have been 40% price increase for the hardware needed to completing this project. I'm seeing several of my vendors 30-day only quotes, just like Mr. Corzan said. I can't thank the IT department enough for the support that they've done on trying to get this project completed. We've worked tirelessly to try to get to that portion. If you look at that map up there, anything that you see in black there are future intersections that I'm trying to get onto the system. Anything that you see in green right there are further ones that we've currently have completed since the beginning of 22. The only one that you can't see on there because I couldn't fit it on there is 57 in Beechwood, and that is on the system also. Going into 23, based on my capital issue needs, is just pretty much for hardware and software and adding more intersections on this map to continue the project moving forward. I'm also trying to get a bucket truck. The one I'm trying to replace is 2005. And it's a bucket truck that we use for flags and everything else because we can't use our other bucket truck that we stand poles with because of outrigger reasons. Also, when I go to place the order, they're telling me 25 before I can get it. So, and then also the cost of poles have gone up, 57 poles. They've gone up, they're roughly about $5,000 a piece.
How much?
Up to $5,000 a piece. And the ones on Middle Avenue are as high as a little higher. So.
Mr. Showalter, in regards to this exhibit over in Elyria, you're referencing the green, that those are either completed or just to kind of confirm that, but seems like maybe that's just a light. Like, for example, at Poplar Street and East Bridge Street, and at Elyria Catholic right above, it's got the green dot with the 4-way. Can you explain that to me a little bit more?
As far as, yeah, you go to another slide, maybe you can help him out a little bit. This is kind of what you're going to see on the actual computer when you bring up an intersection, and that changes according to the intersection. So what you're looking at there is, yeah, it's a screenshot, but that changes. So that actually tells you a live, what state that light is in whatever time. When you see the blue squares on there, that is actually a vehicle that has came up. There's also PED buttons out there. If that is lit, like where the crosswalks are, then it'll tell us if we've got a stuck PED button or anything like that. There's several things that this system is doing, moving forward.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to understand it a little bit. And the cost of this project overall, what was?
And we haven't fully implemented everything here. We still have quite a bit of training to do, which I'm shooting for first quarter of next year to get the training, because we're going to be waiting on material to come in. Engineering is going to be involved in getting some training, and also my staff moving forward. But hopefully within the next first quarter, we can implement some of the traffic changes that the system will bring us based on the data that's coming in.
Yes.
Why this is important? What is this?
He's asking why this is important.
Sure.
It's just going to save on gas. It will basically help us in traffic changes. Hopefully, we won't have to do many traffic changes because the system will work for us. Because based on the vehicle counts, it is always analyzing, and it will basically recommend changes to make.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Tolet?
if you remember when we approved this originally, the analysis of fuel savings was based on $3 a gallon at that time.
Right.
And it would pay for itself in the first year based on $3 a gallon. So what's happening with technology is just, what's going on with our body cams with the police or this is just outstanding.
Right. Actually, like you asked about Poplar and Golf, we put in vehicle detection out there at Poplar and Golf, and we really can't put PED buttons in out there. And usually when you're trying to get an intersection with loop control vehicle detection, you want to have PED buttons because you don't really want to bring up the light if there's no car there. But if it's got a PED that's going to continuously come up, it's going to cycle that intersection anyways. At that Poplar and Golf intersection that you were asking about, it's the first time that we've been able to actually use a camera to detect a person on the corner in order to basically actuate the PED. So what will happen is we won't have to worry about cycling a light when we don't need to cycle a light. But it's kind of neat because you're just going to walk up to the corner and it's going to happen.
Yeah. It's just kind of mind-blowing to see the technology. It changes every day. It's craziness. But is there anything more, Mayor, that you wanted to add with, or what Mr. Showalter, that in regards to? Again, this is all technology at its greatest and it's working, but it all comes down to dollars and cents as well. So we appreciate that, Mr. Showalter. Again, this is a process to where you can kind of listen, ask questions now, but we're gathering some information today. And then I still think that, we can have an outreach to Mr. Showalter and his department to say, hey, where are things at with that? So appreciate it, Mr. Showalter.
What I'd like to also say is anytime you want to come out to the department,
right,
I'll be more than happy to show you kind of what's going on there, because it's actually pretty impressive to see it live.
Right. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Showalter.
Yep.
Next, we'll have Mr. Sam Jacobs from Water Pumping.
Welcome, Mr. Jacob.
Well, thank you for having me here and listening for a few minutes. As you know, water pumping is the only department that's not in the city of Elyria. The plant's located in Lorraine on Lake Erie. We pump the water 8+ miles from Lake Erie to the city of Elyria and numerous other communities in the county, North Ridgeville, Amherst, Northern Ohio Rural Water. We have over 120,000 customers in the county and beyond. We're in the process right now of negotiating to sell more water, hopefully in the future, that we can't really divulge anything now, but we're talking with the mayor and setting up some meetings for early next year. The water plant's over 100 years old. There's buildings there over 100 years old that are still in service, still in use now. When the plant breaks down, we have to repair it immediately. We can't take it out of service. We can't shut the plant down. We have a very good preventive maintenance program, but we have to be proactive and keep working hard to keep ahead of the breakdowns. You heard everyone before me talk about lead time, inflation, and supply chain as it affects what we do in the plant. I'll just give you one example. We ordered a semi-truck to pull the sludge that if our centrifuge breaks down, we have to haul the sludge from Lorraine to Elyria. That truck took 18 plus months after we ordered it to come. And we're running into this. We have a boiler broke down. We placed the order in November. They don't know when the boiler's going to be here. So it's like this with everything we're doing. We had a relay breakdown at one of the towers that relays the information to the plant so the operators can see the level. We couldn't get parts. Dave Rothgary called, and we were calling different cities. We borrowed a part from City of Cleveland, and 8 months later, our part came, and we paid City of Cleveland back. But this is what we're running into with everything, our pumps, feeders, valves, any part you can think of, where 5 years ago you can call the vendor up and they'll bring it the next day or the same day. No, it's months and months. And they're quoting 30-day prices. So if we order it today, they'll quote $5,000. It might not be here for 6 months. It might be $7,000 when it gets here. That's why we'd like the budget passed beginning of the year so we can start making additional purchases early on. I gave you the example of the boiler. We have parts and pipes on order that we ordered this year for Clark Street Pump Station, a bypass system that's there. That's going to be put in by distribution and a contractor. We don't know when the parts are coming. We're starting a study of the transmission lines from Lorraine to Elyria. There's 3 water lines that take the water from the plant to the city of Elyria. One line's 120 years old. So we're doing a 3-phase study. Phase 1 is supposed to start in January. All this money is being encumbered. Over $600,000 in capital funds are being encumbered because we ordered parts or have studies starting early in the year. We've ordered numerous spare parts to be proactive. They're on order. We don't know when they're coming. We have some trucks and vehicles and grass cutters we need to replace. We'd like to order everything in January because we don't know when they're coming. Our capital also includes lab equipment. We're replacing some of the lab equipment in the lab. Again, as soon as we order it, they won't let us know when it's coming. Our operations maintenance fund, if you look at that, increased quite a bit. I'll just give you an example. In 2021, we spent for the whole year $42,000 on liquid chlorine. In 10 months of 22, we spent $179,000. That cost went up almost 700% on the chlorine cost. And this is true for all the chemicals they feed at the plant. The costs just doubled, tripled, and are just going up geometrically. We also anticipate increases in natural gas, electricity, and waste removal for our waste we generate with the sludge. Including repair and maintenance, that costs are going up. For parts, like Terry crew, we try to do everything in-house as much as we can. If we can't do it, then we ask. We've had Terry's crews out at the plant cleaning wells for us. Every time Aaron shows up with a truck, it saves us $5,000 to $10,000. We've had the fire department dive team out at the plant. We had a chemical feed that goes into the intake pipe break. The divers went into the well and partially into a 42-inch pipe to fix the leak. That's $5,000 to $10,000 if you could find a diver to come in. So the dive team is essentially on call. We call them, they come out. Distribution's been out working on different things for us, so we try to utilize the city people as much as we can. Our personnel is about the same. We don't anticipate increasing any personnel at the plant next year. The 23 budget and encumbrances is pretty close to 22, I think within $100,000. I think that's it. If there's any questions.
Well, you gave us a lot to digest over and through there. Again, as I said to Mr. Corzine, you do a phenomenal job. You're here breaking and looking for grants and just trying to find every way you can be cost-saving measures. So you're a valuable asset to the city, Mr. Jacob, you and your staff. Does anybody have any questions in regards to what was Mr. Jacob and his request and talks about and his concerns and everything? Oh, very good. Mr. Jacob, if you could, I don't know if you have that letter, if you could just send us an email copy of maybe what's that, or if you want to give it, we can make copies here, or just maybe your bullet points, so that the committees can have something to look at, and just kind of reviewing everything. Thank you, Mr. Jacob.
Thank you.
Mayor?
All right, so that was the three departments that we felt they are ready right now for their full year, so they can put their heads down and focus on executing for 2023. The next set of presentations, which we'll try to get through very quickly, because a lot of this is similar to what we've done in previous years with Issue 6. There's not a lot of new projects. When it comes to those larger, bigger, newer projects, we want to have that conversation in the future. We want to get through this tonight. We want to keep it kind of simple for tonight. So the first, we have Chief Pelko is going to come up and speak about the police portion of Issue 6 and some of their requests, and give you some background and be here for any questions. Chief Pelko.
Thank you, Mayor. So for our Issue 6, some of the things that we're asking for is, as I talked before, our building is old. It's going on 25 years next year. We had a power outage earlier this year and had some issues with our generator that we have. So a new generator is going to cost us $50,000. With that, we need a new roof. Our roof is leaking. We're patching it, talking with Mr. Schneider from Buildings and Lands, and he's trying to piece together to get it patched. A new roof is going to cost us approximately $650,000. We have some reoccurring costs with contracts with software and stuff that we need to operate. Included in that is our Axon cameras, our Axon in-car cameras, our tasers, our record management system. The total for that is $396,000, $412,000 for all of that software and the tasers, the in-car cameras, and the body-worn cameras. And I got a list that I'll pass out to you when I'm done here. I have included here $75,000 for a recruiting assistant. Now, this is through a grant that we will get reimbursed that money back. $15,000 in ammunition, and then 10 officers under Issue 6, which would be $634,836. And I have just over $213,000 in encumbrances from 2022 for outstanding purchase orders that we weren't able to get this year due to some supply issues. So, but I have copies here for. I will say on one of the software issues, there's a gray key. I think it's $28,000. So every year in the past, I have gone to Lorraine County Prosecutor's Office and asked for reimbursement. We do a lot of our forensics, examining computers and phones for other police departments in this area. And in the past, Lorraine County's prosecutors has been generous to reimburse us for that. Hopefully they'll do it again this year, but just in case they don't, I added it on there.
Thank you, Chief. So out of the, if I understand this, out of the issue 6, you're just looking, we're considering, or the general fund, issue 6, but for the new generator? Is that, understanding that? Is that what you're looking for?
Yes. Mr. Plesky,
Through you, Mr. Chair, in the temporary that's before you, in the issue, I'm going to call it the 2016.50% income tax fund. In the police department, in that fund, the only capital that is shown in the temporary is $174,391, and those are carryover encumbrances. So these items that are on the screen are not in the temporary, to my knowledge.
So those are under consideration?
Correct.
Okay.
And when we get through this, we'll pull up the actual exhibit that you'll be voting on and speak to the detail of which ones made it on the list. Again, I think the roof was one of those ones where we wanted to have that next conversation with you all, because there's a number of large, big projects that we want to talk about in context and talk about how we can use, whether it's issue 6 or ARPA or bonding, and because there's some big projects that need to happen. But we wanted to, again, present to you the basics. So when we get to that part with John, but one of the things you heard Chief talk a lot about was software. And so we have our IT team here to talk about some of their requests that you will see in the exhibit. So our director, Brian Rothgear, will be presenting on some of the IT needs for the city.
Welcome, Mr. Rothgeary.
Hello. I was thinking as everyone was talking, you know, you hear people refer to the IT department. We do all the stuff in the background and stuff like that. We do try to support all of the departments to perform their necessary functions. But really, I was thinking, so what are our functions other than to support people? We kind of have to be sometimes the bearer of bad news if we look at security as being very important, you know, so there may be things that people want to do and we say, let's not do it that way because we want to keep things secure, we want to keep our information safe. The other thing is keeping everything running. We do have a very large network with all of the different buildings that we have interconnected. And so what we've been building over the years is a lot of redundancy as far as, you know, acts of nature, you know, that we can, you know, sort of anticipate and, you know, what if this happens, how could we do this? And what if that happens, how can we do that? So over the years, we've built a lot of infrastructure in that regard. One of the difficulties with that, you know, with redundancy is when you have to buy things, you have to buy, it's, you know, twice redundant, you have to buy twice as much stuff. So we've been really focusing a lot on cybersecurity. Lately, we created a cybersecurity plan and policy that we put in place, actually submitted for a grant to help bolster some cybersecurity aspects that we have. I don't know when we'll hear from that, probably almost 9 months, I think, before we'll hear. But the other thing that we do is we have devices on our network that when they reach end of life, they're considered no longer supported by the manufacturer. And at that point, we want to replace them. It's kind of a standard thing, and it's pretty much what all of the, any type of audits that we go through, that's what they ask, you know, do you have any end-of-life devices in place and what's your plan to get rid of them? On that aspect, we have 2 very critical devices in our network, which are our firewalls, which are the separation between us and the outside world, so they're a very important aspect of cybersecurity. And the current devices that we have are over 8 years old, and we're looking to replace those with ones that are, they refer to them as next gen, which they're, you know, much more powerful in what they can do to protect us and our data. So we have, as one of the items is to replace those firewalls, and they include some subscriptions that provide some threat prevention, malware prevention, phishing prevention, and some other things like that that are all just buzzwords for keeping us safe. So we have the purchase of the hardware for those, and then professional services are $12,000 to help us get those implemented. The total cost being $94,000. The second item that we have is that a large majority of our network, our servers, and a lot of other networking devices actually exist in a virtual space, which means they reside on a couple pieces of equipment, with essentially the disk drives and other things that form all of that and store all of that processing power and data and everything else. What we currently have in place has been in place for over 10 years. And we have been pushing it to its limits the last couple of years. It's definitely, we've gotten a lot out of it. And to replace this again, because we do things redundantly, the base cost for what we figured out we needed to buy was $233,000, but we have to buy 2 of them. So that quickly becomes a lot of money. And then on top of that, there is licensing that goes with all this software. And so this, we refer to this as our storage area network, and the total cost on that is just over $513,000. Those are our 2 projects that we have slated for 2023, and that's really all I have to bore you with.
So with that being said, other departments who've come up thus far, lead time, is that an issue here?
We don't see it with these 2 items. There's about the only 2 items that we don't have a lead time issue with, because we have it with a lot of other ones.
One other question I wanted to ask, I know, based on the importance that we were just talking about on some of this piece of equipment, but, and this is probably minor in the big scheme of things, but the video equipment that's here, and then what we're using here, this tripod here, what would it take to implement, and maybe that's after everything you're doing here, but to implement a system where we can utilize what's up here? Or if it's a case of replacing it, I think this is with the forethought of having that up and through here and generating that, but we would like to maybe see if there's a way to update this instead of the tripod to have our meetings and things.
Yeah, well, I can remember the day we put that tripod in here, we thought it would be here for about a week. It's been a little longer than that. The cameras that are mounted, the 2 up there and the one over here in the corner, we have checked into those. They're about 18 years old. They're not really even connected to anything anymore because we've changed so much in the background stuff that it hooks to. We have looked at there's a company that designed the system with these touch screens that they use to, bring the projector up and all that. We looked to them to see what they could incorporate in that with cameras, and we did get a quote, I think 2 years ago. You wouldn't remember what that was, would you? 35. I feel like it was $35,000. It was a pretty large price tag to me. It was very involved, very complex. I would say, that's something that could be done. There's obviously other things that could be done as well. There's a lot of different ways to do it. We did it with a $300 camera.
Sure, and it suffices. I know that it's just always nice to kind of see, there's always more needs, I get that. It'd just be nice to kind of have that a little bit more of a system in place.
It would, we could put together a couple of different concepts.
Sure.
Float by you.
All right, very good. Any questions for Mr. Rothgary in regards to his request? And then, Mr. Rothgary, if you could just give any of your bullet points, or if you just kind of have that, just so that we have, and then, again, council members can kind of talk to Mr. Rothgary and his team, but you guys do an incredible job. I mean, through all the COVID and even before that and even after, you guys are a tremendous team and you get things done, so we appreciate that. Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Rothgary? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Rothgary. Again, that IT piece is really critical. Next, we're going to be really quick, because this is pretty standard here with streets. Director McKillips, do you want to take this, or you want me to just go ahead and... Go ahead. So, because I know we're getting pressed for time here. So last year, you guys approved expediting this process with the streets. We're asking for the same amount from last year, 1.6 mil towards roads of this year. If we can get that approved, we can get that bid out early and actually give our residents a chance to enjoy the roads in 2023. Any questions on the streets? And I think Director McKillips has invited you all to do ride-alongs. I hope you've taken advantage of those ride-alongs to go through the city's neighborhood, whether it's your ward or if you're at large, going through the city and seeing how these roads are rated and giving them some feedback.
Any questions in regards to Ms. Davis?
Through you, Chair, when we talk about the streets and 1.6 mil sounds like a lot of money. And so before, when we didn't have issue 6 and the streets start to get away from us. So when we look at them now, I just think we need a little bit more than 1.6 mil so we can start moving in the right direction to make our streets look good. We fix a couple streets. Basically, each ward gets a couple of streets. And so when we look at it overall, when people look at, we're doing nothing. And we're spending 1.6 mil. So, and it's so much since it has been gone so long. Every time we get a chance to just get an extra 400,000 or 500,000 to get maybe that other street to make it look better. And as I ride along, I noticed that understand that Ward 2 and Ward 7, we have the most streets. We have the most problem. And so when we say we're looking at 1 and 2, I'm telling you, there's no 3s. There's 1, 2. That means it's bad. So we are hoping that somewhere we can find another 500,000 to help out the streets with issue 6.
Mr. Pileski.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I apologize to the mayor because we were working on this all day, this exhibit. I didn't get a chance to talk to you, but we did add another 300,000 to the streets. So it's at 1.9 million.
Merry Christmas.
There you go. Boy, Mrs. Davis, nice job there.
So, Merry Christmas.
It's at 1.9 million, plus we had an encumbrance of 321,000, so the total appropriation is 2,321,000.
Good stuff, good stuff. Thank you, Director Pileski.
All right.
And thank you for that, Councilwoman Davis.
All right. So, okay. All right, Mayor?
Ready for the next one? This is just a map of the roads. This is available online on our website where you can actually see the roads that have been done or are being done. If you go on the website, you can see the 2022 streets that were done. Next, we have Parks and Rec, Director Reardon.
Thank you, Mayor. So as they're passing out the paper, I wanted to talk about, we have a pretty large number for our encumbrances just because obviously projects are still going on, and actually I'm hoping within the next week, maybe a couple hundred of that will be done because playgrounds are done. But I kind of wanted to go over really quickly those encumbrances because it is a little more than 1.8 million, which actually I think that's even changed like this week or last week by a little bit. So West Park project, we have a little bit over $1 million encumbered for that. The HVAC system, so the AC that's going in at West and East, a little over $300,000. Playgrounds, Bell Avenue, Abbey Road, and North, which should be completed by the end of this week, $284,000. And then West Park parking lot paving, which was awarded, but they're not going to start on until next year, is a little over $200,000. So that's why there's so much in encumbrances for next year. So our 2023 request, as the mayor stated, is a lot of what we've done in the past. Just now we're moving on to different locations. So I'll just go through the list really quickly, and then you guys can ask any questions that you have. I put in $125,000 for the West Park project, just because what we've seen, as a lot of other people have said, you know, we got these prices a while ago, so I just want to make sure that we have contingency money in there in case things come up through that project, which we've seen in other projects, things have come up, and just want to make sure we have enough money for that. Paving last year, we put in to do 2 lots, and again, because prices went up, we were only able to award the 1, so we still want to do the North Park parking lot. Sorry, that's very hard for me to say. So there's money in there for that. The locker room at North did not go out to bid. We're actually hoping it will go out to bid maybe in the next month or so. So there's the money for that. Washington Village parking lot, which we got a grant for. So we're going to actually add a parking lot over there. The Pocket Park, we have $75,000 in. We were able to get a lot of really good community feedback this year with the help of the Leaders of Today organization. So we're hoping to move forward with the actual planning, design, and then implementation of that park in 2023. Security cameras at West, we would like to add some at the splash pad, and also the new restroom that's going in over there. There's a lot of length that we have to travel to get the stuff out there, so that's why you see that price tag. But we have been able to utilize our security cameras at other locations because we have had a lot of vandalism this year, so we feel like that is important to add those to that project. Pool heaters for North and East. We've been out without pool heaters now for 2 years. We know that the pools need work, but I feel like this would be really good for the residents and for the users of the pools to be able to have them heated. You know, we had an instance last year where we were not able to hold our lifeguarding class. We actually had to move it in the middle of the class to Oberlin Splash Zone. We're very thankful we were able to do that, but the water was just too cold to have the kids in there. So I do feel like this is a little amount of money will go a long way for, you know, heating both of the pools. We have $60,000 in there for communications and promotions. So what that line item is we've had a lot of feedback in the old master plan and the updated one that we're hoping to present soon, and also from Park Board, is that we really want to get the word out there about what we're doing, whether it's the new facilities and amenities that we're adding or the new programs that we're offering. And, you know, some of the programs that we've had around for years that maybe there's new residents here that just don't know about it. So we've had a lot of feedback about people just not knowing what we offer. So we really want to put some money into that this year and really get the word out about what we're doing. And then the last item on there is the South Park T-ball field. So we did get CDBG money for that, but we also will be supplementing hopefully $65,000 of that from issue 6 to complete that project out there. So our request for 2023, I guess I'll say new monies, is a little over $1 million. One more side note that I really did want to point out is I put over to the side there the grant money that's to be returned. Total for all of our grants right now is over $450,000. So because the grants, you know, that we do are reimbursable, we do have to put all the money up front. But I just wanted to make a note that that's how much money we will be getting back once the projects are, you know, completed, all the paperwork's turned in. $457,138 will be coming back for the 3 different projects that we currently have grants out there for. Sorry, I spoke really quickly, but I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Director Reardon, so the West Park project, that's, I know, that's all the paths and everything like that, and the,
Yeah, thank you, through you, Chair. So that is the one that we got the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant for. So that's pickleball courts, a new restroom, and the trail that'll go through the whole park.
And then, forgive me, splash pad and going back up to the security cameras, what's the new recreation?
Oh, new restroom.
Restrooms, okay.
Yep, at West. So both of those are at West.
All right. Anybody have any questions in regards to Mr. Oswald?
I'm not on the committee, but I did go to the pavilion for something at Burns and over on Burns Road in Gulf. And the picnic tables and everything is looking dilapidated. There's thumbtacks and staples all over. They need to be addressed. And it was kind of bad when some of the tables I wouldn't have sat on because you don't know if you're going to fall down. I think that needs to be addressed on all of them to make sure that they're up and up, or somebody's going to get hurt. And they just look bad. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Davis.
Through you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to say thank you for Bell Avenue Park. It looks great. And I see it's still kind of roped off, and I don't know if they're completed, but of course, you know, kids have moved it. That worries me because they have removed the tape and you see them swinging, and so that lets me know that it's not completed yet. So what can we do, or how much will it be completed during the spring, or what to expect?
So through you, Chair, that actually should be completed by the end of this week. What the contractor did is do all 3 playgrounds, and then they're going to come in and put the mulch in. Okay. So that's why we still have them roped off, because they're probably going to add anywhere from, I would say, 8 to 12 inches of mulch. That's why you also see such a big difference between the slide and the ground, because they're going to add a bunch of mulch in there. That was just the way that they wanted to do it based on their staffing, and when they could do the mulch, they want to do all 3 playgrounds. So I got an email today that should be completed by the end of this week.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Bell Avenue, thank you.
Thank you. Law Director Derry.
Thank you. Just briefly, through you, Mr. Chair. It's really a housekeeping matter, but I do think it's important that the city-owned property on West Avenue that is designated to be the future Pocket Park, as well as those certain parcels that are adjacent to West Park, have not been legislated and formally designated as park property as of yet. So I would just caution designating the Issue 6 funds for Parks and Rec for those, since they are not formally parks property yet. I'm not saying there's anything illegal about that. I just think for finance purposes that you would want those to be parks property when you're spending Issue 6 Parks and Rec monies towards that.
Mr. Tolet.
Through you, Mr. Chair. We could do it as a temporary appropriation, though, correct? Just not a permanent appropriation.
Honestly, I would, my recommendation would be that they would be parks property prior to making any sort of appropriations or encumbrances.
At all? Okay.
But I don't see any, I would rather just, for housekeeping purposes, I would rather see it cleaned up altogether. But obviously, the council can make its decisions as you best see fit.
Mayor, can you weigh in on that, where
Yeah.
that's at?
So, yeah, that's really something that you can take up, Chairman, if you want to go before. I think it's just procedural. You all knew you were acquiring the west property for a park. You knew in terms of the 15th Street property, that was kind of dialogued about. So that's something y'all can take up and make it an emergency without a committee, however y'all want to handle it.
Sure.
Going forward.
Okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would request that a referral be made either through Safety Service or through Parks and Rec. That's previously how it was done most recently with the Pioneer Plaza property, which was acquired by the city, and then Parks and Recreation Board made the recommendation. I believe that would be the way to have it handled.
Okay. We'll get that in the queue then, to get it done, so make sure we're all on the up and up and everything. Is there any questions for Ms. Reardon in regards to what her report and
Through the
her
chair.
request? Mr. Williams?
Yes, sir, through the chair. We have a Parks Board meeting next week. No. The first week in...
There'll be one, through you, Chair, the second Thursday of January, and I don't have the date in front of me, I apologize, but we just had one last week for our December meeting, so yeah, the next one will be the second Thursday in January.
And through you, Mr. Chair, Director Reardon, I believe that the Pocket Park has already been recommended by Parks and Rec Board.
Yeah, both of those have been recommended. Because I believe, are you talking about the parcels where Oakwood is at West?
I was not aware of that, but it was my understanding that on that West Avenue that had already been recommended by Parks and Rec Board.
Yes,
Okay.
It has.
And you would know better than I as far as the parcels adjacent to West Rec.
Yeah, same thing. They both have been through Park Board, and they have accepted them as a park.
Okay. So we'll look into those items just to make sure that we're all getting that score, getting those into the queue so that we can just kind of make sure they're all addressed.
Thank you.
All right, and last but not least, economic development. Assistant Safety Service Director Dawn Calvert is going to present on that, and we also have someone here from Lorraine County Community College to talk about the Skill City Initiative and give an update on that as well.
Okay, very good. Ms. Calvert?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. So if you look through the Economic Development Issue 6 budget, there really aren't many changes by category. There was a slight change in the allocation of program dollars. We reduced the amount in the demolition program to $50,000, which would be a maximum of one grant. So that grant program is reimbursable up to $50,000, so it would be up to that amount. We started that program a couple of years ago, and it's been effective in stimulating investment in downtown, so we don't actually have very many more properties to be demolished. So we look forward to the day where we can zero that one out, but there may be a few more properties that would be eligible for that and be in the city's best interest. So we're requesting $50,000 for that. The other program change, allocation amount that we changed was for the downtown facade program. So we typically allocate $100,000 for that. We are requesting $80,000. We rarely, if ever, receive more than 5 to 6 applications in any given year, so we feel like that's a good dollar amount there. And the reason that we did that is that we would really like to focus on marketing and advertising for the city. So we really took a step back from that to make sure that our marketing was strategic, and then the pandemic hit, and we thought, well, we can really use those dollars invested elsewhere, but we think right now is the time to compound on the excitement that we have for some of the projects going on throughout the city and make sure we're advertising the opportunity to invest in the city of Elyria, to start a business in the city of Elyria, to move to the city of Elyria, and be a part of what we're doing here. And then you'll see the professional services, $350,000 allocated in that. That is really accounting for our agreement with McDonald Hopkins that was recently approved, as well as thinking forward about an investment in Elyria Community Partnership again for 2023, and architectural services. And then lastly, we have $200,000 in there for the Skill City Initiative. Obviously, workforce development and workforce training is something that is critical for economic development everywhere, and especially in the city of Elyria. So that program is to get an in-demand credential and skill for Elyria residents, last dollars in with Lorraine County Community College. So we would like to see that continue.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Calvert? Mr. Pileski.
Through you, Mr. Chair, one thing that did come up in today's discussion with the engineering department is that we may need to appropriate more monies for the Shane demolition project. So we may have to revisit economic development, because that's where we took the demolition cost from to begin with. So we may have to revisit this department when we do the permanent.
Okay. Hill City portion? All right, welcome. Please state your name and address for the record.
Water Drive, Vermillion. Cynthia Kushner, 3540 Edgewater Drive in Vermillion. So thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I'd like to share a few highlights from the Skill City Promise. As Mayor mentioned, this was initially passed back in March 2021 to get us started, and we've been very excited with the initial results. And I'll share with you some of those. So this was designed to help support Illyrians, city proper, who have chosen to pursue pathways in high demand job skills. You see some of the highlighted pathways here on the two screens that we presented as a place to start, but some people have come to us, and they have been interested in fields like nursing and things like that. So you'll see where we've been able to help them even finish degrees. So far, 135 Elyrians have received 148 awards to date, so a few have been able to continue in their pathway and receive some gap funding to complete. So as you might recall, when this first passed, we had, the college was issued ARPA funding through federal funds, so we were using some of those funds, leveraging those first before tapping into the Elyria Skill City dollars. And we started ramping up, though, in the fall 2021. As you can see there, we funded 45 Elyrians at a rate of $48,000. And then this past spring, we had 66 Elyrians at nearly $60,000 funded. And this summer, we had 34. So we have spent $126,238. And this fall, we have not seen what those costs are yet, but we anticipate that it will be fully depleted. So that process will take place actually this week. So I wish the timing would have been a little bit different. We could have provided a little bit more information. But we do look at all our other funding sources and apply them. And again, the Elyria gap, the Elyria Skill City fills those gaps for Elyrians. So to date, we had 48 students complete 49 degrees or certificates. You see where they're at. Some of them, many of them are working already. Some of them work in hospital settings already. A lot of our medical coders do. We had 7 people finish their Associate of Applied Science in Nursing. You see the universal arts there. That's not true universal arts. Those are people finishing their prerequisites so they can be admitted to nursing or another healthcare field primarily. So they've expressed that as their major, but we can't admit them till they've completed their prerequisites successfully. You see a number of IT programs there listed, engineering, that electronics fabrication, that's really tied to that MEMS program, microelectrical mechanical systems. It's at first credential that they can earn for that. And there's a variety listed there in the bottom too that you can see where people are coming from. So that gives you a sense of what they're studying and how it aligns here in our area. And again, we expect that, we know that'll be depleted this fall. So that's why I think I was invited here.
So I had a question, whether this is to the mayor or to you, Ms. Kirshner. So the advertising and how we make this awareness for our youth to get a part of this program, that's one question. And the second one be, as these graduations, do we help in internships possibly, but do we connect them with employers?
One example, if it's okay, I know I'll share, is we have coupled, this Elyria Skill City has provided some funding to our Success Corps students. We did a really in-depth outreach to Elyria High, those seniors who are graduating last year and this year, to get, and even mid-year students, to get them into some of these short-term training programs. And this helped, this program doesn't come with any funding for their tuition, but it pays for an advisor that gives in-depth advising services. So it's targeting really the at-risk youth. So we were giving a lot of, I'll call it extra advising that you might not get if you just walk through the door. So this was coupled together with Success Corps, and we have across the board we have about 80 students, and I know a lot of them came from Elyria, and Elyria High was really great about helping us get in and connect with those students before they left.
Good.
Just can I follow up on that?
Sure.
And another way we've advertised has been through the utility bills. We actually put a flyer inside of the utility bills, and that, but I think that's one of our goals for this upcoming year is to make sure the word is getting out.
Ms. Davis?
Through you, Chair. My question is transportation. So are we having a problem with the young people getting there? Is there some kind of way we can help with these programs to have transportation? We have Lorain County Transit and that I know there's public transportation issues.
Yes, there is problems, and, you know, we continue to try to support students the best we can with the resources that we have, either through, I mentioned Success Corps, they do have some transportation funds, but it doesn't buy you a car, it doesn't get you a license, but it helps try to offset some costs. But we have not worked anything out with the county system, but, you know, we're open to being at the table. We should see what more we can do to help with transfer. It is an issue. Some of these are web-based. We are able to help with technology and Wi-Fi, so that helps some. Recently, we had a conversation, an in-depth conversation with Lorraine County Urban League, so they want to help us. So there is some work going on there. Them being a nice hub site with computers and technology there, so that's something in the works. We haven't figured it all out yet, but there is partnerships brewing as you know, a part of this and even more too. So Success Corps was a big one. That's another one.
Mr. Oswald?
Through you, Mr. Chair. I thought when this all started, I was hoping that we could get some programs for construction trade people. I don't see anything. We need carpenters, plumbers, electricians, heating and air. All these, I don't see one of them on there, and we need that for our industry. Why aren't we doing any of those classes?
That's the trades.
No?
There's the welding, so if you look, yeah, it's on there right there, it's on here right
Is it
now.
on that one
The
or the other
welding
one?
and
Okay.
all that stuff is on there.
We don't have everything, you're right. We do have some, and we do have relationships. So if there are interests in those areas, we are able to connect them to some of our partners, like the Boilermakers, the bricklayers, the masonry, with our masonry technology program. So,
And that could be some of the, part of the BIA, Building Industries Association, to kind of incorporate some of their, you know, help with, you know, generating some type of program in through here, you know, coordinating with the college, you know, with this. So there's always room. We can always expand and do those things. We just need to kind of get that into the queue as well, so.
Well, I know it's always been talked about, and we did a lot with the JVS, and I don't know, but here again, of course, I'm passionate because that's my industry, and I see that they're not getting no help. And what we're finding out is when you want to have work done in your house, what do? Thank you.
yeah, ours is more in construction management. And
Sure.
no,
Yeah.
we
No.
need to do more.
Hey, we can do more, sure. We can always look into it. That's always expanding it. So any other questions for Ms. Kirshner or the mayor in regards to this? Okay, very good.
With that, Chairman, I want to thank you and the committee for allowing us to present to you. As I mentioned, there's been over 100 hours put into this, and I appreciate y'all taking this additional hour and a half in your time tonight to be able to hear these presentations. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure the staff appreciate it, and kudos to all the department heads for having, you probably started your day at 7:30 today, and here we are at 8:30, so thank y'all for this long day today, and thank you for all your hard work for the city. Thank you.
Okay. I know that Chief Pernesti was here. Chief, did you want to weigh in on it? I know we have some of your recommendations over and through. If you want to quickly come up while you're here. And then I guess with that being said, before the chief speaks, Mayor, when do you think you'll have the rest of the budgets in, or when are you hoping to?
Thank you, Chairman. So, you know, we'll be meeting with the department heads between now, and we'll try at the next committee to get a next clump of them in.
Sure.
And then probably another clump at the end of January, but, you know, we're trying to beat March, but, you know.
I got you.
Yep, so thank you.
I got you, thank you. And then after Chief Pernesti speaks, what I'd like to do is have Finance Director Pulaski and Assistant Finance Director Farrell will want to weigh in on overall the whole 2022 or 23 appropriations temporary. Chief Pernesti.
I just, take me when it lasts, and you're all tired when I go home, so I won't take up too much of your time. But I've been working with the administration, and, you know, the fire department and issue 6 is always kind of, well, what do we do? I'm not happy about it. I want to change that. Can't do that until the next time that issue 6 comes up. But a couple things that I really want to, and we will address further when the mayor, we get together again, but, you know, staffing, I really need to try to get some staffing before or as soon as possible in the first year. I sent that information to Director Calvert and to you, that the longer you wait, the more that we're going to incur in overtime costs, and also the overtime is not being acted upon. The guys are not working it. So as we work on the budget, I know it's going to be kind of tough for a department my size to have a permanent appropriated budget in January, but I would like for you to at least think about on finance that we can do that. The longer you wait, again, it's going to cost. We gave an exam. I would like to try to get 3 people on. I have a retirement in February, so it takes 6 months. So whenever you hire a firefighter, I always got to throw 6 months onto it because that's when they go in. Don't forget also the memo of understanding. The minimum staffing has gone up from 14 to 15. So I have to keep pace with what I believe is necessary so you don't incur the overtime, or we run into a problem, which I worry about more, is that we can't even fill the complement because nobody wants to work. And again, we do not mandate overtime. We cannot do that like you can at the other departments. Also, you know, we need a plan. We need a plan for the fire department, and I'll leave it at that. But apparatus, I know we worked with the mayor. Where'd he go? There he is. Hi. To try to get a plan for apparatus replacement. I need an aerial. I'm laughing, not maliciously, but all the department heads saying how long it takes. There's no magic with a fire apparatus. We build it from scratch. It's 27 months. And if I have to replace our aerial, it's our toolbox, it's $1.7 million. If you wait, it's going to be $2 million. And we have to act. But I'll be here in February. You are going to get a state of the fire department, a true annual report. And also, I've reached out not only with the IFF for the GIS study, but I'm going to give you a level field, and I'm bringing in a state to help me. The state fire chiefs offer a strategic plan. So you will not only have the IFF's GIS study, but you'll also have a strategic plan as far as stations and infrastructure and those things. But as we move forward, we gotta put some money towards the fire department, and however that works, we have to work together. Yes.
Mr. Tolet.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Just for the other committee members, could you give the age of the current aerial?
2000 we bought it in 2008. It was delivered in 2009. But it's going to be 14 years old. Again, people don't like hearing this.
It'll be 17 years old.
Well, it'll be 17, 18 years old, but there are standards that we have to abide by that says after a certain point, it has to go into reserve status, or, you know, and what happens is, and I agree, any little thing that happens, you look at that standard and you say it should have been this, it should have been put in reserve, so, you know, one last thing that I did on it, just so you know that I'm doing my due diligence. I called other fire departments that took delivery of the same aerial in 2009. They chuckled when I asked how much money they put into their aerials compared to what I've put into ours. Well, our fire department, we put over $30,000 in the last 5 years into that aerial, and we use it. So, I mean, it's just all there is to it. We get a lot of work in the city, and so, you know, I'm trying to starve that off a little bit, but we need an aerial, and we need people. There's no software in the fire service. Just remember that. There's no magic computers. It takes bulwark and physical labor. That'll never be replaced.
Thank you. Any questions for Chief Pernesti?
Okay.
Okay. Very good. Mr. Plesky, can you kind of recap what's before us here tonight? And
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. So, the mayor presented the three budgets that are basically going to be the same as the permanent. So those three budgets are complete. The other funds, other departments, basically for salary and wages and benefits and pension, we took 30% of the current year appropriation. And operating and maintenance, we took 30% plus carryover encumbrances. Capital outlay, for the most part, and all the other funds, we just took carryover encumbrances, with the exception of some projects that the engineer's office brought forward that need to get going as far as sewer and water projects. So we still have one more payroll to post this year. So after that happens and we pay the final bills, I will amend our 2023 Certificate of Estimated Resources with the Lorraine County Budget Commission to reflect actual cash on hand. And then I'm currently working on our estimated revenues for 2023. The one thing that I'm noticing, of course, income tax revenues, as you have seen in our reports, are up a little bit over 2021. A lot of that is because of net profits, tax on net profits, and typically when we have a good year in net profits, the following year drops off considerably. So I'll be taking that into consideration as I estimate income tax revenues. So probably with the 2016.50% income tax fund, there's probably still going to be another maybe $1 million left to appropriate besides what was presented to you tonight. So not a lot of money left to appropriate there, but I'll be finalizing my estimated revenue figures hopefully this week, and we'll be meeting with the mayor and giving him those numbers and go from there with the permanent.
so you do need action, just to confirm, tonight for the 2023 temporary.
Yes, we need a budget.
Yes,
We
yes.
did.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Pileski? Mr. Farrell is here as well. They worked extremely hard on this, along with everybody else, all the department heads, which I want to, again, greatly appreciate those who are here, kind of to talk about your department. We appreciate your hard work and efforts that you do each and every day, and your employees. You're very valuable to our city. So this is just part of the process. You know, this is just the temporary portion of it. Things may change between when we get to the permanent. Mr. Farrell, do you have anything you want to add, or if there's any questions for him? If not? So we did have a motion on the floor. We do have a second. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Okay, hearing nothing more before this committee, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sarah. Second by Mr. Center. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Yeah, I got $2 in my pocket. I'll give you a credit card. Yeah, exactly.